Alright guys, this is a guide of how you can build your first 20 pounds of muscle and start working your way towards your goal physique. I've been bodybuilding now for the best part of 15 years and I've been an online coach for over 10 years. 5 of those competitive years of bodybuilding I've been an IFBB pro. So I compete at the highest level. I've coached thousands and thousands of people and I've taken people from never lifted before to having a lot of muscle. I've had people from lifting a little bit with no experience, taking them all the way through to pro status. I've also had people who are coming on at a later level, and we've managed to build muscle at all levels. But this is about like building that first bit, and the most important bit, of course, right? So first of all, skin in the game is the most important thing I want you to take on this. Bodybuilding is a time game. How many days can you string together to improve your physique without fail? Like, that is like the epitome of what bodybuilding is. So it basically just means doing it for a long period of time, right? And it's still important to understand that 20 pounds of muscle is not going to come in 6 months. It's probably not going to come in a year if you're natural. But when you start stringing together years of this stuff, like, that's when you start to build 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds of muscle, and you look back and you go, damn, I got big. And it's about taking these principles and extrapolating them over like a bodybuilding career. Here's the main 4 factors of bodybuilding: training, nutrition, recovery, effort, and consistency. And this is all the things that like progress us towards 20 pounds of muscle. So you kind of need all of those things in unison in order to gain 20 pounds of muscle. Gaining 20 pounds of muscle, guys, is not like I'm just gonna like have a hobby of gaining 20 pounds of muscle. Like, no, this is like, you need to try for it, right? So trying to do these things a little bit better consciously, even if you do them 80 to 90% better than most people, you're probably getting a lot more results. So first of all, we'll talk about training. This is like step 1 of growing your first 20 pounds of muscle. So what should you do from 0 to 6 months? So there's going to be a few things that are going to be hard. There'll be a few things that will be good. There'll be a few things that you ultimately should be doing. What's going to be hard? Number 1, like your balance and stability. It's going to be hard to like stabilize the bench press for a little bit. You're not going to look as natural as a lot of pro bodybuilders because you haven't done it enough. So I want you to take your time building that stability up, which will take a bit of time. You'll have a lot of soreness at the beginning. It's important to know when you get new, like novel stimulus, is like a very strong stimulus. So the first stimulus of muscle building is obviously going to be, a little bit of soreness. Don't be afraid of it. It will reduce. Recovery might be a little bit difficult initially. Your body's getting used to understanding like moving glycogen to a place where it's never been before. You've got to start building muscle where it's never been before. So that's going to be a little bit different. So it will take a bit of time to adjust to that. The commitment is going to be the hard thing for you to do. Like, you're going to go from not really understanding anything about physique development, or maybe you understand the basics, but you're now trying to implement all of these things to do that. So it's a big commitment and change. And then finally, progress. Like, progress isn't always linear. I think young lifters, young bodybuilders, people who are trying to change physique, fat loss, or anything like that, they expect things very, very quick, and they don't expect like 2, 3, 4 weeks of nothing happening, which happens very, very often, even at the pro level. So progress isn't always linear. Try to be patient. So here's some of the things that you should do for sure. Number 1, it's all about skill acquisition, first of all. So how good are you at lifting? That's it. Only focus on that. And the way you can do that is by doing something a lot. Don't focus on anything below 15 reps, 15, 20 reps, a couple sets. You could probably do like an upper lower split, or probably a full body split 3 or 4 times a week. If you start with that, focus on those high rep ranges, focus on form, focus on recruiting muscle and feeling the muscle, all while kind of educating yourself in the background. I think you'll be off to a very, very good start. This initial training program would be pretty non-specific. So just grow everywhere, pretty even sets everywhere. And you just focus on getting good at those exercises and making them look good, feel the muscle. And you'll probably feel like your muscles for the first time, it'll burn, you might start to like it, you build some strength, you might find your posture's a little bit better, and you'll probably lose some body fat and gain some muscle at the same time. So there's a lot of good that will come in those first 6 months. Especially if you're going to be in a calorie surplus, so body fat isn't going to be massively coming downwards, but I think you'll see some great positives. Obviously, move on to the second half of the year. I think this first year is pretty important. That's why I split it up like this. But what's going to be hard here is like holding yourself back and holding yourself where you don't just want to be Ronnie Coleman and watch all the YouTube videos, watch all the influencers, watch all the pro bodybuilders and you want to go do what they do and start doing 5-day splits and drop sets and supersets, I don't think you should be doing that yet still, because you can still grow so much out of so little. And if you like bust your load too early, you might take away what you can get later on in life, and I don't think you should do that. So I think you'll also struggle like not wanting to try and like max out everything, try to get to 3 plates, 4 plates, 5 plates, whatever it is. Been there, I've done that. And again, progress can be not linear. So here's what you should do. You should continue to acquire the new skills. 6 months is not enough. 6 months is, 31 weeks. So you might have had 31 times squatting. That's not loads. I think when you get into the hundreds, you start getting very good. So realistically speaking, you're still trying to get good at the skills, but you're much better at that point. I think at that point, you're probably good enough so the rep ranges could drop a little bit. I think you're probably good enough that you could start to track your workouts a little bit and just focusing on actually like this time, yeah, you might be going 12 to 15 reps, but next time, why don't you do a little bit more weight and you start to like progress that way. So while I want you to start to begin to focus on that progressive overload and tracking, I also want you to focus on the internal focus of the muscle, always. Form over everything. Always feel the muscle, feel the pump first. If you struggle, take a step back and try and work out why. This is where I coach my own. The split, I'd still stick with upper lower, or if you were doing a full body, move to upper lower, but upper lower would still be fine. You could maybe throw in an arm day, but I'd probably still stick to upper lower for that first year. I honestly think you can get so many gains out of it. High recovery days, high like impact, like strength days. You'll find you could probably be a little bit more specific, but you're still pretty general. Like you might go, right, I want some bigger arms now, I might throw a few more arm sets in, right, for example. But you'll start to feel more like, you'll definitely start feeling after 6 months of lifting straight and eating straight, you definitely feel good. Then you've got the 1 year plus. So what's going to be hard here now is like, as you start to go into the more advanced levels, is the things that we all deal with, and that's just like managing recovery. At this point, you clearly like training, you're going to train hard, like training too hard, enough volume, not too much, not enough volume. Those are going to be the start of the questions that you start to get. Trying to find your limitations as well. I don't really want to get to my limit because the limit normally means an injury. I want to get just below it. So trying to learn that comes with age, that comes with experience. So trying to hold back in those moments is always a good idea in my opinion. And then like maybe age, you might start thinking about your age, but this is kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line type of thing. So here's what you should do. 1 year plus. So obviously your skills acquired now are at a much higher level than baseline, but they're still obviously not compared to like my 15-year career, right? So skill acquisition is ongoing. I think you'll find it's just there at every level. And maybe we'll do building 10 pounds of muscle from years 1 till 3 and then whatever it takes after this, but we can go into that. You can probably start to add a few more complexities here, maybe drop sets, supersets if you fancied it. You can start to really progressively overload everything, and you can get a bit more specific as well. If you start to see some weaknesses, some strong points, you can start leaning into those weaknesses or strong points and start to program a little bit more specific. For enjoyment, to have a more balanced physique, I think it makes a lot of sense. Again, still focusing on internal focus, always focusing on internal focus. I can't stress enough, form, tempo, then like weight, and then like form, tempo, intensity, then weight. Honestly, best thing you could ever do. And then you can start exploring different splits. Upper lowers definitely works. You could do like push pull, upper lower, or you could switch to a push pull legs, or maybe you could just start mixing things up and seeing how you feel. This is kind of like explorative phase, but make sure when you are sticking to those programs. Obviously, this is just the beginning of the journey, so there's so much more ahead. So the next step, nutrition. Step 2 of growing your first 20 pounds of muscle. Training first, because without training, you can't stimulate muscle growth. You can eat all the food in the world, but without training, you can't grow. So second comes nutrition. You can train all you want in the world and you'll grow a little bit, but you will be holding back what you could potentially grow. So here's what you should do, 0 to 6 months. So first of all, what will be hard? Eating habits, like changing from just like whatever is in front of you or whatever you normally eat, if there's no habit behind it, changing those habits to something more protein-based, probably higher protein. That's probably going to be a little bit strange. Trying to learn about macros, calories will be a little bit strange as well, probably initially. And just like understanding your thought process now, it's like, I'm going to count the calories I eat now and understand energy balance is a bit of a nuance to people. What you should be doing here is really developing your nutrition knowledge. Understand macros, protein and carb having 4 calories, fats having 9 calories, and alcohol having 7 calories per gram. Start to understand those, start to understand their impact on it. Understand that protein builds muscle, carbohydrates give energy, fats make the kind of things lubricate and go around, brain health and function. Begin to feel your body right. Start to hit a really good calorie intake, maybe 100 to 200 above maintenance, which you can work out by just doing 10 to 20 calories times your body weight in pounds, right? So if I say 10 to 20, I'd go up 2 for every level of activity you think you do. So if you are like a manual laborer and you do go to the gym, that's like a 5. If you are like sat on the laptop all day, maybe do 10,000 steps, that's like a 2. And just base yourself off that. So you just like taper up a little bit. So most people would float around that kind of 2,000, 3,000 calorie mark. Make sure you start to understand that maintenance as well. Like if body weight is going down, it's a deficit. If body weight isn't changing, that's maintenance. A lot of people say I'm in a surplus. My body weight isn't going up. You're not in a surplus. You'll start to find that you have better energy throughout the day. You start to find you have better pumps. You start to find that you start to feel like food a little bit. You have a meal, maybe you see some veins, for example, which is great. So the second half of the year, I put this here because it's a funny one, but like you're going to increase costs. You're probably going to eat more. Your parents or your food bill is going to go up a little bit. Sorry about that. Integrating this life kind of into your new life now, like this is like a new lifestyle. You might still have some like teething issues, friends, family, understanding like sometimes like you actually being on plan is more important than you going out for a meal with friends and then you're sacrificing it that way versus like, I really want to go, but I feel bad because I'm on plan. That's a different type of sacrifice. When you start really wanting to stay on plan, that's when you start to find the integration a little bit weird and the perception of other people becomes a little bit more kind of involved. Again, what you should do here, by this point, you should understand macros, surplus, deficit, maintenance. That's pretty basic stuff. I think now start to explore meal timings, like how to perform, like eat to perform better. Carbohydrates pre, carbohydrates post, make sure you've got enough protein in. Start thinking about, do you have enough micronutrition? Are you eating fish? Like, how much creatine do you have? Like little things like that to kind of take the next step up, right? I think that'd be a really good idea. And again, you'll eat a lot more food, which will feel good. Workouts will be good, and you'll be like pretty energy full, I would imagine. So 1 year plus, again, the exact same things that'll be hard. These things are always hard. In fact, they're always hard. That is true. So here's what you should do. Right now, you should understand everything that we just talked about. And I think you should really start to be specific with nutrition. And I think you should be covering nutrition for performance as a paramount. So literally pre, intra, post workout nutrition. The rest of it, I'm not super worried about. Like if you have a couple meals either side of that. But we really want to focus on just building that up and making sure that we continue on the same path. And this is where, again, at this point, you'll probably be needing like deloads, you'll probably be needing back off foods. And if you can't eat any food, you might have a problem. And that is something that we're going to assess a little bit later on. So recovery and sleep. So this is a huge component of growing. Like you don't actually grow muscle when you're training. You grow when you're like sleeping and like digesting that food. So some super simple steps for improving your sleep and increasing your sleep hygiene. Cold room, dark room, comfy bed, have a breeze or a fan, white noise, wake up and sleep at the same time. Some supplements can help. We try and stay away from them as long as possible. And then there are some certain things you can do as an extras. Saunas, low impact stretching, steps, things like that. Ice baths, it can potentially blunt hypertrophy, so I wouldn't be doing it if you did rest days. Make sure you're eating enough adequate protein and make sure you're having enough adequate like volume as well. Like too much volume will make you not recover very well. You can't recover from it. Not enough, maybe you're like doing maybe holding some back on the table. So those are some really important points. So some problems that may occur. Of course, you're going to be faced with problems. I'll give you a few solutions. You basically just got to like go through a checklist. It's all it is. It's all this is. It's just counting variables, figuring out which variable needs to change. So number one issue, you can't eat anymore, right? You've been eating for a year. What's the problem? Well, do you need a mini cut so you can get your appetite back? Maybe you just have poor food choices, your digestion needs fixing. Maybe you've been eating too many carbohydrates, you've got insulin resistance, maybe you've got hormone imbalance, maybe your sleep's been bad, maybe you need a deload. Like that could be literally any of those. It could be any of those. You just got to work through it. Maybe your training progress slows down. Well, is it too much volume? Is it not enough rest? Is it poor sleep? Is it if you accrued too much fatigue and need a deload? If you're not eating enough food? Questions, answers. Like there's always an answer. You just got to ask the right question. Sleep's got worse, but nothing else has changed. Or that can happen from having too much fatigue. It can happen from changes in temperatures. Maybe you're, under the line ill. I've got a holiday. What can I do? Or I haven't got enough time for steps. Well, we can have a conversation about that, right? Well, maybe plan ahead to put them in the calendar. You can diet the week before, add cardio in the week before. You can make sure you backload food on holiday. Can't get enough steps, you can get a treadmill for at home when you're cooking or when you're at your desk. There's many things that you can do. It's just about having a solution. And that's where experience and just having the knowledge to be able to do that is. So, summary, guys, I know this is a waffler, but here's how to grow as much as possible, right? Focus on getting good at exercises first, then get strong. Start your exercise approach with simple exercises and then increase complexity over time. Introduce a logbook, progressively overload. Learn to look for signs of when a deload is needed. Again, you could probably Google that, or maybe we'll do a video about that as well. And just rinse and repeat, honestly. Like, you got to get strong over a long period of time. Then you got nutrition, find maintenance, slight surplus, eat into a surplus as long as you physically can, and as long as you don't get too much body fat. Those are the two things. As long as you've got appetite, as long as you don't get too fat. As long as if you hit one of those things, you've got to correct it. And that is how you put your first 20 pounds of muscle on in the first year. And if any of you struggle with gaining muscle, losing body fat, and maybe you've kind of gone over some of these things, you're not quite sure how to implement them, I'm a one-to-one online worldwide coach. I'm an expert at this, and I've worked with thousands, if not tens of thousands of people at this point to get their results. Guaranteed, you will have your money back if you do not get what you need out of our relationship. So if you are interested, hit the link below or the comment. I'll pin a link to my call, and I look forward to talking to you. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like this type of content. We've got many more lined up. We'll see you soon, guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.